all listeners waiting to tune in for this. I'm sure that crowd will grow as I continue to do this, but this is the Week 3 matchup. Packers are going to be hosting the Broncos this weekend, and I'm joined by the Packers Twitter infamous Kevin Tompkins. I actually don't even know. I know your Twitter handle more than I know your actual name, to be honest with you. So why don't you tell people about yourself,
you're right. Yeah, you're right. It's Kevin Tompkins.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if it's infamous. But I do some writing over at Fighting Chance Fantasy. Actually a former Back to the Future writer, did some fantasy over there and some other articles for a couple years, and then decided really wanted to just focus on some fantasy work. Love Brian and the guys over there and Ben Club and everybody at Back to the Future, and happy to get on and do this with you.
Yeah, Brian's been fantastic. He actually reached out to me to kind of host this entire thing, and I'm just so grateful he did, because I did not have any of the YouTube or anything set up, and so I'm just grateful that he reached out to me and wanted to sponsor this, because I actually think it could be a lot of fun moving forward, and I think that we've had a really good time up to this point, and I was undefeated through week 1. Granted, it was 1 week, but Mr. Kevin beat me of the Preach Kev Preach podcast. He beat me with the Vikings. I was not playing too well, but anyway, so we're here. You're a Packers writer, but I know that you write about fantasy, and I do as well. So I think we're both pretty well versed with football around the league. One of the first things I like to ask the people who come on here: who's the biggest, X factor that you're going to be looking at from Denver when they take on Green Bay?
They're really a balanced team as far as their offense and, the run and pass. I really think the one matchup I see is potentially Emmanuel Sanders in the slot. You could see, obviously Sutton. You got guys like Deshaun Hamilton, Noah Fant, who are just talented and athletic. Flacco's been around the league and, can certainly get the ball to those guys, especially the tight end. So there's a lot of intriguing matchups that we'll see on Sunday.
Yeah, I think this is actually going to be a really good test for the Packers as a whole, because I think this is probably the first team that's had legit impact players. The Vikings did. They had Dalvin Cook, and they had the double threat at wide receiver with Diggs and Thielen, but Kyle Rudolph was not going to destroy you down the seam. This is the first team, I think, that the Packers are going to play defensively that has had legit weapons at all positions, because they have the double-headed monster the Broncos do with Royce Freeman and Phillip Lindsay, and then they have Emmanuel Sanders, and they have Cortland Sutton, the rising star at receiver on the outside, and then they've got Noah Fant, the guy who can stretch the field down the middle for you. So that's going to be their first real test, I think, at the tight end position. But this, I'm looking forward to how this defense responds.
Yeah, absolutely. And then on the defensive end, we've got Chubb and Von Miller. Certainly those are probably two of the best pass rushers they'll see all year, and you got to contend with them on either side. So Chubb's really starting to come on. You don't really have to say much about Von Miller, all he's accomplished. So that's certainly going to be a test too, but they do have a pretty young secondary outside of Chris Harris.
Oh boy, that was a really bad. I was off my back foot on that one. Hopefully we're not watching Rodgers do that. I do think he'll be under pressure on Sunday, as you talked about with Chubb and Miller. They did have to deal with Mack and Floyd, but I think that Bradley Chubb is really in line for a big year. He had a really poorly called penalty, we'll call it, in their loss the other day, and I think that him and Miller are just going to be a formidable duo this year. And I actually said at the beginning of the year with Vic Fangio, who's been actually really, really bad for Packers offenses over the last few years. I said that the Broncos could have a top 10, top 5 defense this year.
Yeah, I completely agree. I've had them in fantasy, actually. But, yeah, I mean, you're talking about Vic Fangio, who I think really knew what the Bears are going to bring at them and really made that a great game. It's really a shame that Bradley Chubb roughing the passer. I think that was just a terrible call. I think it really cost them the game. But that defensive matchup I think Bakhtiari, whoever lines up against him, is, they're going to get theirs, but I just worry about um, where Balaga, who he has to contend with.
I think we're gonna see them switch, kind of consistently. Fangio's a smart dude, and he's got experience playing against the Packers, and so he's gonna have a better idea of how to exploit them and maybe how to get Aaron Rodgers uncomfortable. And speaking of Rodgers and his comfortability, what do you think we're gonna see out of the offense this week? Do you think we're gonna finally see that step forward?
I think they need to with the passing game. We saw last week with the run game, they really got it going and pretty much could do whatever they wanted to. But I think we need to see it from the passing game just to kind of assert himself there, because it has been pretty good in spurts. The first, quarter, you saw Rodgers kind of come out just guns blazing, and then Mike Zimmer got a hold of him, and that was that. Mm-hmm. But I think they really need just a dominant game through the air, and they could exploit that secondary, certainly.
MVS is a guy that I think we all had high hopes for coming into the year, and I wouldn't say he's been disappointing through the first 2 weeks, but I don't think he's where we thought he would be as far as production. And a lot of that is probably due to just how new this offense is and how everybody is new to it. And I think it's quite obvious through 2 weeks who the number 2 receiver is. It's definitely Marquez Valdes-Scantling. I think I saw that he was out snapping Geronimo Allison by like 40 snaps over the 2 weeks. So, do you think we can finally see MVS take that step forward this week?
I certainly hope so. I mean, they need somebody outside of Adams to be able to pose a significant threat. I'm not too as far as Allison. He disappeared in the first game. Then he had that touchdown. We really don't know what we're kind of getting out of him week to week. And then you've got Jimmy Graham, who he's kind of off the stat sheet there last week. But yeah, I think MVS certainly has to assert himself here. And then maybe some more of Aaron Jones in the passing game as well.
Yeah, well, speaking of Aaron Jones, they came up today and said that they wanted to kind of even that workload out with Jamal Williams, which I know every single fantasy owner across the world just groaned reading that today. But I think that what they're trying to say is they just don't want to burn him out super early. That's how I'm interpreting that comment. It's not necessarily that they, don't trust him to handle the load. I just think that they want to be able to rely on him in October and November and December. And they don't want to just say, hey, you had a great September, and we're going to move forward. But I think that they view him as a key part of this offense.
Yeah, absolutely fair. And I saw that message too, and I think that's fair to say that you want Jones at his best going into November and December. You don't want to burn him out in September, give him 20 carries, and then have him get hurt. Potentially being hampered into the high leverage games. So as far as Jamal, I know Jamal Williams has been he would get a series here and there, and people want to say about his pass blocking, and I think him and Jones are pretty comparable as far as pass blocking within that offense. But I just want to see Aaron Jones playing those meaningful games in November and December, and I think it's going to worry a lot of Packer fans. They tend to kind of fly off the handle.
Yeah, they certainly do. There's MVS.
Damn it.
So, this defense has been really impressive through 2 weeks. Who to you has been the most impressive?
There's a lot of guys. I'd have to say Jair taking that next step. As far as everybody's, kind of raised their hand and said, yeah, me too. With Zadarius Smith, Preston Smith, Amos, Savage, guys like that, and then you've got Kenny Clark in the middle, and it's super talented on defense, and it's just really nice seeing that kind of come together for Mike Pettin in year 2 here. So I'm honestly not surprised at the way the defense is playing. I know some have been, just because how they've played in the last few years. and there's not a lot of goodwill with the Packers defense. Everybody just thinks they can just roll over them, but with these, not just spending money at free agency, but making smart decisions with that money.
Yeah, I completely agree. I also was not that surprised when the defense came out against the Bears and also against the Vikings and was impactful in a very positive way. The signs were all there, as you said. They spent the money smartly. They spent it on positions that just needed it and places that were obvious deficiencies for Mike Pettin. And I think that he needs maybe one more true weapon. It's gold. He needs one more true weapon on this defense to make it like a top 5 unit. I was saying before the season I thought they could be. I still think they're definitely top 10, but this defense has special potential. And the last time Aaron Rodgers had a top 10 defense, we've been saying this now for a few weeks. Good things happened for this Packers team when that was the case. So it's looking good so far. It's kind of funny how he gets a top 10 defense, actually they're probably our top 10. I don't even know where they rank right now, but I know that they're 3 in DOA. But the point is, he gets a good defense, and it's funny because they're 2-0. So I'm looking at this team to continue that. I do worry about some of the depth at linebacker, but it hasn't really seemed to affect them right now because Mike Pettin is a genius when it comes to mixing and matching his guys. I was hoping that they'd go out and get Minka, but I understand why they didn't. So the future is bright for this group. Do you think Josh Jackson is going to be primed for a bigger role moving forward?
I certainly hope so, because we've been kind of waiting to see Josh Jackson kind of really have that breakout performance to kind of propel him and and get him going. We haven't seen that really yet, but if he's going to do it, I really think he's got to do it soon, or else he's really. There's a lot of hope coming out of that draft class. Seeing them come back up to take Josh Jackson, and obviously hit with Jair, but I certainly hope, for obviously his sake, and Green Bay's sake, and our sake, Josh Jackson can take that next step to being a viable corner, because that puts them 4 deep actually, at an invaluable position. Nobody really has corner depth like that. Oh boy.
There's Darius. There were some discussions when Minka was still available for the taking that maybe the Packers trade Josh Jackson, and they trade Josh Jackson plus something to get Minka Fitzpatrick. And I saw some beat writers say, no, why are you giving up on a guy in his second year? Well, because you're getting a guy that has the same amount of years left on his contract, but is clearly better and proven to be better. I think that this defense wants corners that can man up, so Pettin can do his things that he wants with his blitzers and with his pressure packages. I just don't see Josh Jackson being a fit on this defense, and we knew that when they drafted him, because he was primarily going to be a zone corner. That's what he was good at in Iowa, and
right.
I never really saw the skill set that he would need to become a good man corner. Not to say he couldn't, but it kind of shows that he's not really playing right now. He's been hurt as well, and you can't get hurt. And oh gosh,
come on,
stay away from me. Oh, anyway.
Good Lord.
There's Jamal Williams.
I had you dead to rights too.
Yeah, you did. Thank you, Winsley. So I'm hoping that Jackson can take that step, but I don't think we should be so surprised if he doesn't.
Right. I mean, he had a lot of that pedigree coming out of Iowa. As you said, of being that zone corner, but and you'd think with King being not exactly a picture of. Ooh,
that was a bad throw.
He wouldn't click on for me. Being that zone corner, I just think the time is now. And I loved Minka. That was my pick for Green Bay at 14 that they were going to take Minka. So that would have been really nice to see him.
I really agree. Oh, I thought I could fit that in there. I was really off platform, but anyway.
Oh, come on.
I agree. You know, that year we were all looking for the Packers to make a splash at 14, and they ended up trading down, obviously. But I think it worked out for the best because that pick, you know, it netted them ultimately Darnell Savage plus I'm trying to remember what because they traded back up and whatnot and traded. So, but right. There's a lot of moving parts, but ultimately it netted them Darnell Savage and Jair Alexander. So, you know, you have to look at it from that perspective, and I think that's really good. But, you know, if they could have added Minka to that, oh man, like this could have been one of the best secondaries for the next few years. You know, so I think that was where all the excitement was, and I was completely willing to part with that first round pick. Like, no doubt about it. You know, if the Packers continue on this path, that first round pick is basically going to be a second round pick anyway. So who cares about a late second round pick when you can have a top 10 talent in his class just a year later? So
exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, I mean,
the Steelers got a good pick. You know, they made the pick up for him. And I think Miami really kind of fleeced them on that because, you know, obviously can't break the future with Ben Roethlisberger. That pick could turn into about maybe the high teens, maybe even higher from Pittsburgh, depending on how that offense goes to Mason Rudolph. So we'll certainly see. But
yeah, no, I completely agree. I thought the same thing. When I saw that Pittsburgh made the deal after seeing that Ben Roethlisberger was going to be out for the year, they still went out and acquired Minka. You know, the only time that makes sense, i.e., a franchise quarterback going down for the year so early. The only time that makes sense to add to your defense at that point and give up a top 10 pick or a likely top 10 pick the next year is if your defense is already really, really good and this piece is going to put them over the top so that defense can support the offense. That's the only time it makes sense. And that's not the case in Pittsburgh. That defense is bad. So I just think that in general, Pittsburgh is just not going to be good this year, and they're still going to lose a lot of football games unless they believe Mason Rudolph is the truth, and he's the guy that can really take them to the promised land. Which I was not a fan of Mason Rudolph coming out, so I don't think that's the case. You know, I very well could be wrong. There's a reason why I'm not working in a front office, but the point is, you gave up the opportunity to replace Mason Rudolph if he isn't the answer to get a safety on a defense that's already really bad.
Yeah, I was not a big I was not a big fan of Mason Rudolph. His comp to me was there goes Aaron Jones.
Yep.
Nick Foles, as far as a guy that he's got about an average arm. He's pretty smart with the football and can make some throws here and there, but wasn't a guy that was going to really gunsling it out there. He was never that guy at Oklahoma State. You know, even though they did run a kind of that spread offense and threw the ball everywhere. And, you know, certainly helps to have James Washington and Justice Hill there, too, to make you look a lot better. But, yeah, I was not the biggest fan of Mason Rudolph, and, you know, we'll see what happens there. But I think they could be in trouble this year.
Completely. But I did, you know, you mentioned it. I just found out yesterday that they played together at Oklahoma State. James Washington, Mason Rudolph. You know, I had no idea. So that's a joke. But the point is, you know, the Steelers made that offer and they got a really good player, a very, very, very good player. Minka, I don't blame him for wanting to get out of Miami. Miami is just for lack of a better word, it's a shit show right now. And
that's awfully nice of you.
Probably. I don't remember. Maybe the Lions. I don't think the Browns were ever that much of a joke. But maybe the Lions when they went, you know, 0-16. I don't remember a team that was this lowly thought of, you know, in a long time and so early on in the season. We're only in week 3, and you know, everybody's saying that the Miami Dolphins are going to have the number 1 pick. They're going to go 0-16. Like, I just don't remember the last time that's happened.
Yeah, they're the worst I've seen since probably that Lions team that went 0-16, I'd have to say. Or even, what was I believe it was the Dolphins, I want to say 07 or 08, I believe. I remember they had an overtime win against the Ravens. I want to say it was 07 or 08. I remember, like, Brian Hartline and guys like that. But yeah, they do not. There's no redeeming quality on that team. I don't blame guys wanting to get out, but I mean, we'll see.
I kind of want to use this moment to just remind Packer fans how lucky, we've all been over the past, we'll say 15 years. We've had a couple bad seasons here. The team has had a couple of bad seasons. But, as a fan base, we're incredibly lucky. And there's been a lot of heartbreak. That's definitely true. But, we could always be the Miami Dolphins. So I just want everybody to remember that whenever they think about, the team and what's going on. So
yeah, we're spoiled.
We're
definitely
very spoiled. Preston Smith here. He just got the sack. We could talk about Preston and Za'Darius a little bit. Do you think that their workload is going to become a problem, and do you think we'll start to see it kind of mitigated here against Denver? Their tackle situation is not necessarily the best. I think Juwan James is hurt. And Garrett Bowles struggled the other night. So what are we expecting from, maybe that edge group here? Because after Rashawn Gary, it's the Kyler Fackrell show, and we've kind of seen how that's been going. The dude just can't tackle a football player because he's not a football player himself. So, I'm looking at edge number 4, and I get worried if Za'Darius or Preston get hurt, because I'm not even fully confident that Gary could step in and be the guy yet.
Yeah, I'm not. I do like what I've seen out of him, but call timeout. I didn't realize it was that well. I do like what I've seen out of him. Certainly the Smiths have done a lot of really good work here. I think there's definitely matchups that they can exploit, like you said, with Juwan James and Bowles, who hadn't been that great anyway. Now they're banged up, and yeah, I think that's something they can definitely exploit. And it's great as a Packer fan to be able to have guys that can exploit that, because we haven't seen that, since their defenses, with Clay Matthews and Nick Perry when he was, actually relevant. But, as a Packer fan, it's really good to see that.
Yeah, it's just great to have a pass rush and just not hope that the somebody gets free or whatever. Yeah, you can play. There he is again. Is that Preston? That's Preston again. It's just great to finally have guys who can get to the quarterback, create some pressure, and we're finally starting to see the product of that. 5 turnovers in 2 weeks for this Packers defense. That was a big problem for them last year. Is they just they were making some plays and they're bend but don't break defense, but they just couldn't get the ball. They just couldn't cause that turnover that they needed. So I am looking forward to this defense continuing to do that, because they're going to need it, because we just don't know when this offense is going to completely put it into gear.
Right, and completely agree. It's been a long time coming for this defense, and like I said, we've been spoiled. With a great offense, and Rodgers doesn't have to carry the load anymore, and I'm sure he's loving it. He's loving the fact that we have a defense that can get the ball back for us. Having those impact players on the other side, instead of having to worry about, if I have to score 30 points to win this game. But all I can say is thank God. It's been a long time coming.
Oh, I want to see. Oh, that was dumb.
That's his 3rd pick, by the way.
Oh, Justin Simmons is very good in this game. I've played them before.
Apparently.
So, what would be, if you were game planning against the Packers, what would be your key to victory for the Broncos?
My key to victory for the Broncos would be just to kind of make sure Rodgers is not, doesn't have time to do what he wants to do. You have 2 great edge rushers to be able to get that done. You have underrated guys inside, like Wolf and Gonzalez and guys like that they can get inside and come on. Oh, I hate Flacco. Yes. So, yeah, 4 of 10 in that 170-yard pass that I had. But yeah, I think you got to just be able to make Rodgers as uncomfortable as you can. You're not going to completely stop him. He's all world, and you're not going to completely stop Devontae Adams either. So I mean, you just got to kind of try to take him away. try to steal some of that momentum away from Aaron Jones, because once he gets going, he's kind of a get down there.
Oh, that's dumb. Oh my gosh. Please.
Apparently nobody could tackle Emmanuel Sanders. I know that.
Well, I mean, so he's a guy we could talk about for Sunday, because he had a really big game against the Bears, almost was able to win them that game. So I'm not sure which receiver I'm more worried about. I would be Emmanuel Sanders, just because you got that veteran savvy. Cortland Sutton, I think, it's actually a great matchup with Kevin King. I think those two match up very well, and so I'm really looking forward to see if they kind of do shadow coverage for both Sanders and Sutton. If they just say Kevin King, Sutton's your guy, and then Emmanuel Sanders, you got your Jair, he's yours. So I think that they could actually do that this week, because then you can focus the rest of your defense on taking away Noah Fant and the running backs. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but the secondary could actually be the key to this week's game. And so I think if the secondary goes out and performs well, I think that the Packers are walking out with another victory and starting the season 3-0.
Yeah, I do agree, certainly. I mean, you have to be able to kind of take away,
What a hit. Raven Greens. Rest in peace.
Took him away, too. Yeah, but no, and Hireman's pretty, underrated, too. But, I mean, Fant's obviously the athletic, talent in that offense. And then you've got, what a great story Emmanuel Sanders is, coming back from Achilles after, 8-9 months. We saw videos of him online. And they're like, well, there's no way he's going to be back for the season. No, he's back for the season and killing it right now. I believe he's top 5 in fantasy right now among wide receivers after 2 weeks. So, yeah. I mean, he's been a great story. And then Sutton's certainly one you have to account for, too. I mean, the size and speed right there. I just miss this.
Well, this has been an interesting first half. I'm hoping it's not really the same thing we get on Sunday.
Well, yeah, I don't think you have to worry about any 60-yard Hireman passes, but we'll see. Anything can happen.
That's true. It's true. So now let's flip to the other side of the ball. If you're the Packers, what's your key to victory against the Broncos?
I think it's kind of the same thing. You got to take away. I think you got to take away Sanders. They've got a very balanced backfield, and Lindsey, who's more of the pass catcher, but can go inside and get those tough yards. And then Royce Freeman's really asserting himself as well, getting more of a split.
Oh, he almost caught that. Figure it was worth a shot.
It's worth it. Yeah. So you've got to really account for Royce Freeman now. It's been pretty much a 50-50 split. We saw last week, I think they were within one touch of each other. I believe Lindsey had 34 snaps. Royce Freeman had 33. So, they're just going to mix and match them both. Obviously, Freeman the more downhill runner, but he was pretty good out of the backfield when they had to come back against the Bears. So, I think you certainly have to make sure who's on the field and make sure Freeman doesn't bully over, or Lindsey just to kind of dink and dunk you to death. They've always had an issue with running backs out of the backfield catching passes, and Lindsey's one of the best, certainly.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out if I'm worried about this rush defense or not. Like, I can't tell. It's hard because Dalvin Cook, they have the big game, but he also had 75 yards on one carry. Other than that, they kind of bottled him up pretty good. I mean, he was getting some chunk plays, but I think they did a good job considering who they're dealing with, because clearly Dalvin Cook is not from this planet after watching that game. And so I don't know yet whether or not this rush defense is a concern to me. Maybe when Oren Burks gets healthy or B.J. Goodson gets a little bit more acclimated, we'll start to see a little bit better. But, I just don't know yet. I think that this team's going to rely on just pressure and more pressure and just creating turnovers until they can really kind of find their identity, which maybe Pettin doesn't have an identity, so who knows. But I'm just really trying to figure out what the weakness in this defense is, and so far I don't have one. Do you think that the rushing defense the rush defense could be the ultimate weakness of this entire defense?
I think each facet of the defense has kind of shown, what it can do in those 2 games here. Certainly shutting down. Oh boy, it's a pick.
Hey, Amos. The other, speaking of Amos, the Broncos were trying to sign him in the offseason. So, more redemption for Adrian Amos here as we take the lead. But, so the rushing defense, I think that if we had to pick a weak point, that is, what would you say is the weakest point on this team as a whole? Maybe not just offense or defense, but just the weakest point, like the one that you would exploit the most.
For Denver, I'd probably say I'd try to go after Tramon Williams in the slot. I'd put Emmanuel Sanders there and just let him kind of
That's Rashawn Gary.
do what he does.
He's just running plays down.
No, you're good. That's funny. No, I try to go after Tramon Williams and kind of see what I can do there. Maybe, take advantage of the, because of the bookends being banged up. Maybe throw in some screens for Lindsey and Freeman and, see what they can kind of do and get them to maybe over pursue a little bit. Because they'll be running downhill being at Lambeau this weekend. So those are probably the 2 areas I'd want to, focus on here. Oh, Flacco, I hate you.
Preston Smith having a big day. I hope that's the case on Sunday.
His Flacco's throwing motion is so slow.
I believe it.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm not used to it because I'm used to playing Ultimate Team, and I've got Rodgers on there, and he has the quickest release out of pretty much anybody. So
he does. He really does.
Used to, yeah. He just flips it. It's great. And now I don't think I've used Flacco.
Oh, what a play from!
I thought I caught that.
I thought I caught that. I didn't know what just happened. What a play from Alexander, though. I think that if we get another performance from this Packers defense, the same level of performance that they gave against the Vikings, I think the Broncos can be in for a long day. That's just the honest truth. Because Thielen and Diggs are far and above what Sanders and Sutton offer from the wide receiver position, and King and Alexander did a hell of a job, kind of containing them. That's another guy we didn't even talk about, Deshaun Hamilton, who could make some plays from the slot. You mentioned Tramon Williams, the concern there. I don't know. Again, trying to go back and figure out what this weakness is in this defense. Maybe the slot deserves to be in that conversation because Tramon Williams is not getting any younger. He's gonna lose some athletic ability. He's got that wit though, and he's gonna rely on that. And he's been pretty good so far, I think. I mean, he's been okay, I guess we could say. I'm looking for somebody to step up in that slot role though, and I think they had Josh Jackson in mind for that, and it just hasn't happened yet. So, do you think that Deshaun Hamilton's a guy we could be looking at having a big day on Sunday?
Yeah, I think he could certainly get some shot plays there, and they'll certainly take a few shots with Sutton too, just using his frame to kind of box out. That's certainly what I do. I mean, the dude's 6'4", why wouldn't you? And athletic as all hell too. He's looked pretty good so far, at least this season. I'd think as far as Sutton versus Jair, you have to figure that'll be a matchup there. They're going to move Sanders around. Oh, come on. Oh, crap.
Oh, there's a Darnell Savage interception. Oh, we're going to return this one back. Hold on. Oh. If I got a clean juke there. Yeah, if I got a clean juke there, I'm probably gone.
Yeah.
Anyway. So Darnell Savage, another guy we could talk about. We didn't see him leave the game, but he did leave the game injured against the Vikings. He got kicked in the shin, it sounds like. Sounds like they're not too concerned about it. Injury report for the Packers is actually really clearing up. One name that kind of stuck out to me is Montravius Adams today. I saw his name on there. Do you think we finally get to see Kingsley Keek this week?
I think we'll see him probably, with how Patton kind of switches guys in and out. I think we'll see him get a couple in the snaps. But I think if Adams is good to go, I think we'll see him, and then maybe they'll kind of divvy up the snaps a bit and give him a. Oh boy.
Oh boy. Oh wow. Okay. All right. Well, I gotta stop taking.
One-handed too.
I gotta stop taking these shots. I'm ruining Rodgers' interception numbers.
And I'm padding Flacco's because he would have had probably 6 by now.
It's true. It's true. Well, yeah. I think that. I don't think Rodgers is going to play as poorly as I'm playing with him right now. I'll be completely honest with you. But this game, the way it's going right now, I don't think it's crazy. As far as it could be a little bit back and forth. The Broncos team, I just don't know if we figured it out yet as far as what they are. I thought that this defense could be really good. They've only been average through the first 2 weeks. I think Fangio figures it out. Honestly, the Broncos probably win last week against the Bears if they don't get that roughing the passer call that was probably shouldn't have been called. The Broncos probably win that game on that hell of a drive at the end with the touchdown to Emmanuel Sanders and then a 2-point conversion. So this isn't a bad Broncos team, and I think that the line on this game is like 7.5 points, which is quite a bit in the NFL if you're not familiar. Wow, that's not good. So, the Packers are pretty heavily favored to win this game. I do think it could be a little bit of a trap game. But what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's going to be closer than the spread. I haven't looked at it, but you said what, 5.5?
7.5.
7.5. Yeah, I think it's going to be closer than that. I think it's going to be within a touchdown. I think the Broncos are pretty sneaky, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I do think the Packers will win this game. Just based on the talent, but I think it'll be a lot closer than that spread. I'd certainly take the Broncos in the points there. Oh, throw it!
It worked. Flacco obviously is not a super mobile quarterback. I think I've sacked him like 6 times in this game already. That's going to be the case. I mean, I feel like the Packers are going to get their sacks on Sunday. They're going to pretty much do whatever they want with this offensive line. The Broncos was not a good offensive line. The Bears is probably average at best, but the Broncos is probably somewhere in between there. And this defensive front has kind of had its way so far with these teams. And Minnesota really picked it up. I'll be honest. The offensive line for Minnesota really picked it up in the second half of that game. In the first half, it was just all Packers in the front, and the Vikings could do nothing to get a push. And that's why ultimately the Packers were up 21-0. We can also talk about the scripted plays. In terms of something I'm looking for, we'll kind of go to the scripted plays. I'm looking for the Packers to get off script this week and really have success there. When you watched the game last week, did you notice anything other than Davante Adams, we'll say, after the first quarter? Any positives on this offense, maybe running the football?
Yeah, I have to say it was definitely running the football and pretty much doing whatever they want. I mean, Aaron Jones is kind of just slicing and dicing through that offense. I think they keyed on Adams and kind of dared them to beat, if they're going to beat him through the pass, to do it with anybody but Adams. And I think they got some more plays to Adams after the first quarter, but there wasn't really much of anybody else.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that. Oh, wow, Brad Chubb.
Didn't know he could zone cover like that. Jeez.
Who knew?
Good Lord. Anyway, this running game was big, and I think, if the Packers are going to run the ball like they did against the Vikings, I think you do need to give Jamal Williams a couple more carries, because there were a couple times where I saw Aaron Jones take a big hit, and I'm like, oh, is he okay? Is he okay? And, he was taking a beating. He was, and he really got rewarded for it because he had a really good day, and he got his average back up to 5. I think he averaged like 3 point, or it was 3 even against the Bears, which I think is just going to become a trend, and we're all going to look back on that and be like, oh, that made sense. But this offense as a whole is going to tick when the running game is going. Do you think they're going to have any problems with that against Von Miller and Bradley Chubb? I'm not too concerned about the interior of the defensive line. It's okay, but it's not great. But do you think that Bradley, Chubb, and Von Miller are going to really have an impact in that area?
I mean, I think they're going to have. I think they're going to have an impact on any part of that. Whether they're running or passing. But I think if they're going to be able to win, I think Aaron Jones has to have a big day. But like I said, the passing game really hasn't gotten up to snuff other than that first half, or the first quarter, I mean, of the Vikings game. But, it's Aaron Rodgers. When he decides to, he can put that team on his back and throw for 303 touchdowns. We've seen it time and time again. So, but now that they have that running back, I really think that they have. Oh my God, that was terrible.
Jair was blanketing him though. He was all over him.
I was hoping to just kind of loft it out there and get an animation or something. But no, I think now that they really have that run game and have that dynamic Aaron Jones back there, I think he's the key outside of Rodgers.
Yeah, I tend to agree. You kind of want to lean Devontae Adams, but Devontae Adams' success is going to really hinge on the success of Aaron Rodgers. But speaking of Aaron Rodgers, thank you, Adams. Speaking of Aaron Rodgers, he started to look like his old self against the Vikings. Making some pretty ridiculous, we'll call them arm throws, because they weren't even really off platform. He was just flat-footed, and he had to make a throw, and it was all arm talent. And
yep.
That's the Aaron Rodgers that we know and love. And I was so excited to see some of the throws that he was making. Do you think, I really think that we're going to see, oh boy, he dropped it. Okay. Do you think we're going to see LaFleur unleash him a little bit more? We talk about how the offense needs to get going. It seems like early on, LaFleur is willing to take shot plays to get this offense going. So do you think we're going to see them start fast?
I think they need to just establish a tempo, and I think they need to, I do think they need to start fast. They need to just get Adams, get him, established early. I'm gonna go for this actually. It's
okay.
I got wind against me. I'm on the 32. I've made some stops. Why the hell not?
Yeah, I should probably. I really think so as well. When we start talking about like no huddle, this team hasn't done a lot of it, and I think that was something that we expected them to do this year, and we just haven't seen it yet. And that's probably because they're still working through the playbook as far as what works, what doesn't, who can do what. I think there was a report earlier that they haven't even really touched a large part of it. It's very oh my. That was unfortunate. It's Preston Smith in coverage. No wonder why. So, I think that there's a lot that we have yet to see. I think the most promising thing that I saw in the first couple of weeks was not necessarily play scripting, but play sequencing and the setting up of one play with another. We saw it in that first touchdown drive. They had the swing pass to Aaron Jones. And then on the backside, they had the screen. Well, the first play on the drive was a swing pass, and the second play on the drive was the screen that ultimately led to the Jamal Williams touchdown. So, what has been, is the running game the most surprising part of this offense to you and the success of it? Or, what would you say has been the most surprising part of this offense, and maybe even LaFleur, just that, in general, like what has been the most surprising?
Probably the amount of chunk plays that they've gotten from the run game. Just seeing Jones' vision and seeing him being able to just kind of cut off of linemen and then getting into the second level. I think that's probably been the most surprising, because you've seen a lot of 2-3 yard runs, and then you'd see Rodgers back there on 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8. Having to, wait for those long developing routes. Oh, come on, give me that.
I need to stop right now. When you start looking back at it though, and the Packers were one of the most efficient teams when running the ball last year. And to marry that with LaFleur and what he wants to do and what he brings to this team, I don't think it's that surprising that the run game would be successful. You know, when you consider the dynamic ability of Aaron Jones, which we've talked about now at length, and then the average ability of Jamal Williams, that's still worth something. You know, he would be a very important part of a lot of football teams in the NFL. And I look at this team with MVS, who we're expecting to step up at some point here. Devontae Adams, who can win one-on-one virtually any corner in the NFL right now. And Geronimo Allison, a guy that Aaron Rodgers has spoken highly about time and time again. I just think the sky's the limit with this offense.
No, I do agree. As far as, you know, as a whole, I mean, this offense has got a lot. There's a lot to like, and you know, you say what you want about the whole Matt LaFleur offense being just kind of maybe meh in Tennessee. You know, I think the sky's the limit, especially when he's never worked with anybody like Rodgers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, certainly in his prime.
I got pushed out. There we go. Who is that?
I did. I was, you know, I don't even know. I was hoping it was Locke, because I know Locke is more speed, and I was kind of hope to kind of get around the edge there.
Yeah, okay. Caught me by surprise on that one, but but
yeah,
no.
Caught me by surprise. I'm like, Allen, oh, well, shit, I can't pass
it. Looking forward then, what would be your prediction for this game? I know we talked about it a little bit with the spread, but if you were putting money down and you had to pick a score and a winner, what would you say is the outcome we're talking about on Monday?
I'm gonna go Packers 24, Broncos 20. I think it's gonna be close. I think the Packers are gonna. I think it's gonna be a lot farther than the score kind of reads to, because I think maybe the Broncos get a kind of a garbage touchdown, but I do think that they assert themselves, especially on the ground. And yeah, 25. I'd say about 24-20. Packers win.
Okay. I was going to say about 31 to 27. I think it's a little bit higher scoring game. I think the defense gets a little bit of a wake up call. You know, as I talked about when we first started, I think that they have weapons all over the place, which is something that we haven't really seen. This Packers defense hasn't really seen, I should say. You know, they've seen some pretty good offenses. Maybe the Vikings are the best, but you know, maybe Matt Nagy, you could call that offense the best with his play calling, but he wasn't on, and they only scored 3 points. I think that the Broncos offense, as sad as it has been, is the most talented at different positions, and it's going to give the Packers fits at different points. So, oh crap, that was a terrible throw. Not what I wanted Jerome Allison to do at all. I wanted him to cut in, and he did not. Anyway, hopefully Aaron Rodgers does not throw 5 picks, because I think the world would be set on fire if he did.
I think that was 6, actually.
Was it 6? Well, yeah. I think the world would be set on fire.
Yeah, you would not want to go on Twitter.
Nope, I would actually probably deactivate. Just wouldn't even look at it. No, I do think it's gonna be a closer game than we think. You know, I talked about it earlier being a trap game. Don't underestimate this Broncos team. They're also learning their offense. They're also meshing together and all that jazz. Oh crap. And so, you know, as these weeks go on, we're going to have a better idea of who all these teams are. I still think the Broncos are one of the top 6 teams in the AFC. So, maybe they struggle because Flacco's Flacco, but I don't know. So, that's my thoughts. Oh, gosh. I just can't. Those tight ends, dude. They're killing me over the middle, which is not surprising because of the lack of tight end, or, linebacker on this team, so.
Flacco loves his tight ends, I'm telling you.
I know. That's why I'm worried about Fant over the middle. I think he could really hurt this team. Like I said, they haven't faced anybody of his athleticism and his caliber at the position yet. They were very good against tight ends last year, though, so that's worth noting. But I don't know. We'll see. Mike Pettin he's just done crazy things with a stupid lack of talent. So not the case anymore. But I'm very excited for this game overall. I think anytime you can play the Broncos, they're also a very storied franchise, and we can go talk about those late '90s and the brief rivalry, I guess we'll call it, between the Packers and the Broncos as being one of the top two teams in that era. I just think
don't get me started about frickin' Elway and that damn helicopter.
Yeah, trust me, I don't understand why it's such a. Anyway, so. Anytime these two teams can get together, it's actually a pretty cool game because it's just they don't meet a lot. So hopefully it's a different outcome. I'm now 1-2 in these matchups. I gotta stop talking because I can't talk and play. I very much can't do that. So I'm making excuses, but it is the truth. So this was fun though. Did you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you tell the people where they can find your work now?
You can find me at fightingchancefantasy.com. Going to be doing some work, every week doing fantasy rankings. I do pin those on my Twitter account, so they're easily accessible. I do a couple columns each week. On Monday to recap the fantasy week that was from Sunday, and then I also do a start and sit article every Friday as well on Fighting Chance, and then every Sunday. For an hour from 11:30 to 12:30 Eastern. Myself, Steve Rappin, and Ryan Hallam, who run Fighting Chance Fantasy, will be doing Fighting Chance Live, which is we'll be answering start-sit questions, going through the matchups for fantasy. We'll be doing a live stream on Twitter.com, so certainly check that out. Anybody has any questions, certainly feel free to reach out to me.
Definitely, and if you you can't find him on Twitter, just go to this post on Twitter and you will find him tagged. As always, you can find me on Twitter at Tyler_Grez. Make sure you check out the stuff that they're doing over at Pack to the Future because it's really cool stuff. I was talking to Brian about it the other day, and as Kevin stated, they're just really cool guys. So go give them a follow, subscribe to their YouTube channel so you're not missing the videos they're putting up, all their podcasts and stuff like that. It's a good time, good Packers content. There's a lot of it out there. So until next time, when we tackle the Eagles, I'm still looking for an opponent to take on the Eagles, but that should be an interesting one as well. Yet another tough test for this Packers team, and that one will be on a Thursday night. Not looking forward to that. So thanks again, Kevin, for coming on, and thanks everybody for tuning in.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
No problem.